Here, today we will figure out the greatest lie in Pokemon. And I'm interested in this because, you feel me? I've been a big Pokemon fan ever since I was a kid. Lost so many cards, played all the games. So let's see what the greatest lie in Pokemon is.
Every new trainer starting off their Pokemon journey has one goal in mind: to be the very best like no one ever was by becoming the Pokemon Master. But what does it even mean? It's a term that is thrown around a lot, and everybody seems to have their own definition on what a Pokemon Master is. It seems to have been done deliberately because for the longest time the term was never officially defined, causing fans to claim some trainers
The champion.
are Pokemon Masters when they really aren't. So let's go over who really is a Pokemon Master and who's actually a fraud. As early as the first episode in the Pokemon anime, we are introduced to the concept of a Pokemon Master. Ash Ketchum in the English dub proclaims that it is the reason why he's going on his adventure. And he doesn't elaborate any further for the rest of the series on how he'll achieve this goal. It's implied that you have to beat the Elite Four to become a Pokemon Master, but this isn't true. Looking at the original Japanese opening, it actually gives us a pretty good idea on how to become a Pokemon Master. The main message from the song is talking about how it is really difficult to capture every single Pokemon, but will definitely catch them all. Then to tie it all together, it says you are yearning to become a Pokemon Master and that you will definitely become one. The whole song basically alludes to the point that you need to capture every Pokemon and befriend them.
Not gonna lie, it's sounding like being a Pokemon Master is overrated because I am not catching every single Pokemon. Because if we're gonna keep it a buck, if Pokemon were real, it would not be like the game. All this, you know what I'm saying, chasing after a legendary Pokemon from other dimensions in space. No, Giratina's the literal devil. Arceus is God. How you supposed to catch a god? How you supposed to catch the devil? You feel me? Like, no matter how, unless your Pokemon are really strong, yeah, you're not catching the devil, you're not catching God. I'm not sure how to tell you, big bro.
To become a Pokemon Master. So I feel pretty confident in defining this term as somebody who has captured or befriended most, if not all, Pokemon.
So
With
no
all that
one.
being said, let's take a look at Pokemon Trainer Red, the original Pokemon Master. Red is a boy from Pallet Town who starts his Pokemon journey at 10 years old. His main rival is this
Pause. Does that mean every Pokemon in the world or every Pokemon in your region? Because if he's talking about Pokemon in the region, then sure, Red counts. But we're talking about Pokemon in the world, not even close.
kid known as Blue, and he's Professor Oak's grandson, and they'll be starting their Pokemon adventure at the exact same time. Red claims his main goal is to complete Professor Oak's life work, which is the Pokédex, by finding every single Pokemon imaginable. To their knowledge, we'll get into that a little later. Red ends up picking Charmander as his starter, and
How you
he
supposed to
goes
catch a
around catching
Bulbasaur?
a lot of Pokemon. He's genuinely trying to learn everything he can about these Kanto Pokemon, and when he fights in gym battles,
Hi, my name is
he'll
Tom.
try to bring Pokemon that are actually to his advantage, unlike some other trainers. At the climax of Red's story, he's trying to dismantle the evil group known as Team Rocket. They're a mafia mob boss type of group that ends up controlling Kanto's economy and sells Pokemon on the black market through theft or other unethical means. The first time Red
Is that really wrong, though? Hypothetically speaking, in GTA, if people want to buy Pokemon instead of going to catch them, is that really uh why is that illegal? I don't know.
encounters the leader known as Giovanni, he gets absolutely destroyed. But later on, when Red figures out he's the 8th gym leader and they battle, Red defeats Giovanni, and Giovanni retires from being the boss of Team Rocket.
That's not how that works at all.
At this point, Red only has a few more Pokemon to capture, but he goes ahead and challenges the Elite Four. He had a pretty difficult time, but he ended up defeating all 4 of the Elite Four members. But then he's told that there's actually a champion of the Kanto region, that champion being Blue, his rival all the way back back from Pallet Town, was the top trainer in the entire region, and if Red wants to become the champion, he has to defeat Blue. The thing about Blue, though, is that he has a completely different philosophy as Red. He sees Pokemon more as tools and not really as his friends. When Blue was versing the Elite Four member known as Agatha, they had a conversation. Agatha used to be friends with Professor Oak, but he went down the path of researching Pokemon.
Friends. Alright. We know about Professor Oak. Let's not lie. Bro, we know Professor Oak, bro.
And
Friends.
Agatha believed that Blue, being Oak's grandson, would want to do that too. Blue gets pretty pissed off about this, saying the Pokédex is just a research tool for him to get stronger, and he doesn't care about anything else. This is the difference between Red and Blue, and the theme the Pokemon franchise has been trying to highlight for years. No matter how powerful you are as a trainer or how strong your Pokemon are, you can never become a Pokemon master through brute force. Blue inherently lacked the qualities to become one, which is why Red ends up.
I would never want to become a Pokemon Master because I want to be champion. Champion makes money. You feel me? And my Pokemon were already strong and I'm already great. So you feel me? I don't want to be the Pokemon Master. I'd rather be the Pokemon Champion.
Defeating him and becoming the champion of the Kanto region. But Red becoming the champion doesn't make him the Pokemon Master. Red still goes around catching a bunch of Pokemon after being the champion of the region. When Red thinks he's completed the Pokédex and tries to bring it back to Oak's lab, he ends up learning that there's a Pokemon in a cave known as Mewtwo that hasn't been caught yet by any trainer.
To be
Red
honest,
ends up going
doesn't
and having
count.
a pretty tough fight with Mewtwo, and he ends up capturing him. But with there being a Mewtwo, there has to be a Mew, and Red realizes that there's still one more Pokemon that he hasn't captured, so he goes off trying to find Mew. And this is
It's
the
right there.
legacy of
Catch it.
Red, being the original Pokemon Master. He qualifies heavily, since he's managed to capture and understand most of the Pokemon in his region, he's dismantled a Mafia mob group, and he's the champion of his region. Some people try to refute the fact that Red isn't a Pokemon Master, since he didn't catch them all. There are way more Pokemon regions that exist.
Man.
But ask yourself, would the story make any sense if this protagonist wasn't a Pokemon Master? We can't fault Red for being written at a time where other Pokemon didn't exist, and Red clearly has the qualities that future Pokemon Masters have. So I'm pretty confident in placing Red as the original Pokemon Master. With all that out the way, we can finally talk about Ash Ketchum, the protagonist of the Pokemon anime. Everyone knows his goal is to become a Pokemon Master, but he definitely isn't one for a very long time.
Shout out to Greninja, bro. Ash Greninja, tough.
Makes a lot of mistakes throughout his original journey, which I made a video about over on my channel, so I won't go too hard on him right now, but that's the point of the story, to watch a kid rise from the rubble all the way to becoming a Pokemon Master. Between the many rivals that Ash has had, the main ones all have a similar dynamic to Red and Blue. Ash really respects his Pokemon, and Gary does too, but he goes about it a different way, really caring about power. While Ash wants to befriend everybody, and being strong is more of a byproduct of his journey. The rival that highlights this dynamic the most, though,
Peak Pokemon. Oh, he is my favorite Pokemon character ever. Oh my god, Paul's the GOAT of Pokemon. Jesus Christ, he's the coolest character in the whole show. No glaze.
Paul only cares about being strong, and he goes way too far with his Pokemon.
Toughest Pokemon.
While Ash cares about building a strong relationship with his Pokemon, creating that bond like it's a team. The finale of their character arcs are in the Sinnoh League, where they battle, and Ash ultimately ends up winning with the Pokemon Infernape, which Paul abused, by the way, proving that Pokemon are not tools and you should befriend them, not treat them like weapons. All of this experience led up to Ash winning the Alola Pokemon League, making him the champion of that region. But he wasn't a Pokemon Master.
Man, you know what really sucks? I loved Pokemon as a kid. I was still watching it even when I was in high school. I stopped watching Pokemon just before I got into high school. But the main reason I stopped is because of the art style change. It looked, compared to X and Y, Sun and Moon did not do it for me. So I didn't get to see, and they don't have gym leaders. That was my biggest problem. I like the game, but no gym leaders. It's like, what are we actually doing here? Like, how are your Pokemon getting? Are you just putting your Pokemon in the gym and then just training them all the time? You feel me? That's where dang, I didn't get to see my boy become champion. And I didn't watch this one either, Pokemon, the Masters 8 tournament. I know what happened, but dang, they really, they really did it. As soon as I'm done watching Pokemon, that's when he becomes the greatest Pokemon trainer ever. Of course.
Yet. Even Ash said this himself, which is why he traveled to the Galar region. Just becoming a champion doesn't make you a Pokemon Master. In the finale of Ash's journey, he ends up competing in the Master 8, which is the top 8 Master Class trainers fighting to be the strongest, and Ash ends up winning. You would think Ash winning this tournament would make him a Pokemon Master, but it still doesn't. In the final episode, Gary ends up asking Ash how close is he to becoming a Pokemon Master now that he is a champion. And Ash himself doesn't feel like he's anywhere near that yet. There's a lot more that he has to do, and he highlights saying that he needs to befriend a lot more Pokemon. This is what becoming a Pokemon Master
Damn, you wasted your time then, bro.
Journey ends with him presumably going around trying to catch them all. So by the final episode of the Pokemon anime, this version of Ash isn't a Pokemon Master.
I ain't gonna lie, the way he's putting it makes the Pokemon series seem kind of a waste of time, low key, because the main slogan for Pokemon is catch 'em all, but Ash barely catches any. Like, the most Pokemon he's ever caught in a region is maybe less than 20 Pokemon out of, let's say Kanto has 150. That's not even 20 divided by 150. That's not even 20% of the Pokemon. Damn. But I still like Pokemon. Dope.
But it's pretty clear that he's destined to be one. This title seems to go both ways, where there are qualities that you have to meet, but the trainer also has to feel like they're ready for that title. So that's why Ash ends up just traveling the world wherever him and Pikachu are right now. So I would feel comfortable saying a future version of Ash is definitely the Pokemon Master, just not the 10-year-old self that we know right now. Moving on to some adults in the Pokemon world, we got Cynthia, which is commonly a candidate to be a Pokemon Master. She is the champion of the Sinnoh region and gave everyone nightmares with her devilish team. She clearly does care about her Pokemon.
Nah, me in Pokemon Black 2, man, bruh, we packed her up for real. Me and my Pokemon really went in that water city, and you know what I'm saying, put a BTA, real talk. Only had one legendary. Never mind. My Pokemon were tough. My Lucario, tough. My Cobalion, tough. My Samurai, Who else? My Flygon, tough. So, shout out my people.
Pokemon, even scolding Paul for being so rude to his Pokemon.
Shut up.
She definitely has some characteristics of being a respectable trainer, but she isn't a Pokemon Master. Cynthia was on the verge of retiring after the Masters 8 tournament.
Damn.
And if it wasn't
How old
for
is
Ash
she?
reigniting her fire to want to become a Pokemon trainer again, she would have retired. She herself says she has a lot more to learn, and as we've established earlier, being the champion isn't enough. So as cool as Cynthia is, there's no way she is a Pokemon Master. This is the same case I try to make for Leon, where even though he is the strongest and went undefeated for a very long time, we don't know that much about his inner monologue or previous journey to determine if he is a Pokemon
Learn best practices, then learn
Master right now. Leon was trained by the previous champion of the Galar region, Mustard, which shows that he actually has a good upbringing. In Pokemon Journeys, Ash looked up to someone like Leon, so he's definitely a role model trainer. Leon doesn't have the philosophy that Paul or Blue have, which make them ineligible to become Pokemon Masters by wanting to use Pokemon as tools. Leon did also help with the Darkest Day, saving the entire Galar region from Eternatus, so I would
Shout out Charizard,
that
bro.
Leon is a Pokemon Master.
I love
Some people
Charizard.
have the idea that there can only be one Pokemon Master at a time, but
No.
this just isn't true. In the Pokemon anime, there's a poster that says, "Be the future Pokemon Masters of tomorrow," and this implies that there are multiple Pokemon Masters at the exact same time. This also disproves the belief that some people have that the term Pokemon Master is just something Ash made up and not used in the universe, since it's advertised across the region. Wallace is another Pokemon trainer that people believe is a Pokemon Master.
Nah, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Not it. But anyway, if I really like locked in, like let's say Pokemon in real life is like a show in the game, and you can catch pretty much any Pokemon you want if you know the tactics. I'm gonna lie, starting from 10 years old, I'm 20 now, so 10 years, I can catch all the Pokemon. I swear to God. I'm pretty sure I can do it. No cap. Start me off wherever. I can start in any region and become Pokemon champion. I'll even do you one better. I won't use my strong Pokemon from other regions. Every time I go to a new region, I'll start from the very beginning and do it all over again.
Master. He's a really skilled trainer, and he's a master in the skill of being a Pokemon coordinator. In the Pokemon anime, Wallace is called the Champion Master, which has made a lot of people believe that he's a Pokemon Master. But
no, he only uses water type.
He's also referred to as a Champion Master at some points, and being a Champion Master doesn't equal Pokemon Master. It just means you're a really skilled battler. So I really don't see a plausible argument on why Wallace would be a Pokemon Master, so he just isn't in my eyes. There is also a belief that every trainer in the Masters 8 is a Pokemon Master, but this just isn't true. The only ones here that I would say are Leon and Ash. People like to hate on Iris, but she definitely has major potential to become a Pokemon Master. She became a champion at such a young...
Hold on. I don't think so, because she wants to be a Dragon Master and capture all the Dragon type Pokemon. So, if so facto, if we really want to be literal with the term, she can't be a Pokemon Master if that's her mentality.
Age, and she's learning everything she can about dragon type Pokemon. This is a trainer with a lot of potential, and I wouldn't be surprised in a few years if she actually is a Pokemon Master as well. When I was asking around, a funny argument I heard is that Go could potentially be a Pokemon Master.
Oh, I heard this guy's trying to capture all the Pokemon, yeah.
Running the title, but Go is too much of a rookie trainer in my eyes to be a Pokemon Master and doesn't really learn much about the Pokemon. He kind of just catches them, but you have to try to understand them. So to put everything together, I would say Leon and Red are Pokemon Masters, Ash is on his way to becoming a Pokemon Master, and everybody else is not. But hey, you can become a Pokemon Master by subscribing or watching the video on your screen talking about the
many mistakes of Ash Ketchum. Do I want... Nah, I won't watch that video. Unless you want me to. Other than that, yeah, that was a pretty good video. My final thoughts: being a Pokemon Master is overrated. Become the champion, have strong Pokemon, become a gym leader, and yeah, just win.